I want to ask you something before we even get started. Think about where you were 5 years ago, 10 years ago, what you said you wanted, what you told yourself you were working toward. Now, look around. Did you get it? If you did, and I mean really got it, the career, the title, the income, the house, the status, the respect, then let me ask you a harder question. Does it feel like you thought it would? Because I've been sitting with that question for a while now. And the honest answer, the one I couldn't say out loud for a long time, is that for me, it didn't. Not completely. Now, what I found instead was something much better. But I had to first be willing to ask the question. That's what this show is about. And that's what today is about. Welcome back to Living All In. Most people spend their whole life building something and never stop to ask if it's the life they actually wanted. I've built businesses, finished races I had no business starting, survived things that were supposed to stop me. And at some point, in the middle of all of it, I had to stop and look hard at who I was becoming. That's where I figured out what actually matters. I'm Berrick Abramson. I'm not here to give you a framework or a 5-step plan. I'm here to have the kind of conversation that makes you drive past your exit. This is Living All In, and if you're here, you already know there's deeper water to be explored. If you're a returning listener, thank you for still being around. If you're new, welcome. Either way, I'm glad you showed up because I have a lot to say and I've been saving it. So let me be straight with you about the gap between shows. There was a version of this conversation where I came back and said something like, I took some time to refine the vision, or I was working on some big things behind the scenes. Both of those are technically true, but the real truth is simpler and more useful to you. I went quiet because life got loud, and not loud in a bad way. Loud in a way that happens when you stop talking about doing something and actually do it. We moved, we chose, we built something. And somewhere in the middle of all of that, I realized the gap in this podcast wasn't a failure. It was the subject matter. The silence was the living. So today's episode isn't a return to something. It's a continuation of it. This is episode 7. And everything that happened between episode 6 and right now is exactly what this show exists to talk about. I use the phrase life by design a lot. And I want to tell you what I actually mean by it. Because I think most people hear it and picture a guy on a beach with a laptop and a smoothie and no real problems. That's not it. Life by design means this to me: being intentional about building a life that fits and enables how you want to live, rather than having a job and a life that dictate your existence. It means you choose where you live. You have real input on when and how you work. You prioritize the things that actually fill your cup. You're building a life that feels like a vacation instead of one you need a vacation from. That's not a fantasy. That's a decision. But it's a decision most people will never make because it requires admitting that the life you've been building might not be the one you actually want. And that's a hard thing to sit with when you've given 20 or 30 years to building something. I know because I've sat with it. The leap to opening our own firm, Confluence PSG, that was the first real act of life by design for us. We stopped trading our time and expertise for someone else's scoreboard and started building our own. But that was just the first move. The move to the beach, that was the proof of concept. Let me tell you how this actually happened, because it wasn't some elaborate plan. It was a series of nudges that we decided to follow. A few years ago, my folks retired to Pinehurst, North Carolina, a golf community about an hour from Raleigh, 3 hours inland from the coast. We had visited them there, but I'd never really seen much of the state beyond that. One of my coaches at the time, Nick, a friend and former MARSOC Marine, lived near Camp Lejeune. But I was a West Coast guy with no sense of that area and thought he was probably hours from Wilmington or the beach towns we were thinking of visiting. Turns out, he was 30 minutes up the road. That detail matters. I'll come back to it. Our youngest, my stepson, was set to graduate high school in May of 2024. Empty nesters incoming. And my wife had made me a promise years earlier that when that day came, she'd get me back to the beach. I remember only half joking that we could combine a graduation party with an open house. My wife wasn't quite as entertained by that idea as I was. But we were both curious about the Southeast and the coastal region. So for our anniversary in September of 2003, we went out to Carolina Beach, just outside Wilmington, North Carolina. We found it on a random internet search for beach towns. No grand strategy. Just, let's go to North Carolina and see what happens. We fell in love with it immediately. The green, the people, the cost of living compared to where we were, the comfort of it. It felt easy in a way that we hadn't felt in a long time. We drove around and I texted Nick thinking I'd just say, hey, I'm in your state. And he said, I'm 30 minutes from you. Come find me. We made a plan to meet up a few days later. Carrie and I spent the next few days relaxing, exploring, and honestly a little surprised by how comfortable it all felt. Like life just kind of unfolding the way it was supposed to. We took a drive up towards Surf City to meet Nick. Highway 17 runs north from Wilmington through Hampstead, Holly Ridge, past Lejeune. If you don't know what you're looking for, it's just a 4-lane road with strip malls and undeveloped land on both sides. But we turned east towards Surf City, came around a bend, and crossed a big bridge overlooking the intercoastal, looking at a massive pier and this quintessential beach town. We got there a bit early and just wandered around. Carrie and I kept pausing to look at each other and just smile. When Nick walked into the coffee shop, the staff there greeted him like he was a regular. For me, it was a little eerie. I felt like I just found a home I never knew I'd been meant to be in, and I was hugging a brother I hadn't seen in way too long. Sharing stories of everything from the winding road that brought both of our paths to that moment, that place, and that day, to talk of the big life dreams Nick and I were both chasing, made an hour go by in a flash. After a few tips from him on places to check out, a hug, and a shared knowing nod that something was unfolding, we headed out. I can't quite describe it, but I had a new sense of peace, of clarity. There was something in the air saying a new chapter had just started. 6 months later, I came back out for a photo shoot at Nick's gym in Holly Ridge. This deserves a beat because it wasn't a casual thing. One of my other coaches, Josh, another former Marine Raider who had served with Nick, had pushed me to go for it. I spent 6 months training as hard as I ever have. Bulked from a lean 165 to 185, then cut all the way back down to 165 at under 10% body fat. 3,000 calories a day on the bulk, gallons of water on the cut, Ziploc bags of grilled chicken everywhere I went, including sometimes sitting at meetings. I showed up to that shoot as someone who had been doing the work on himself. That mattered. It mattered to me, and it showed in the results. I had crushed goals before, including some not small ones recently. I've paddled ocean channels, and I've run more than my share of trail runs from the mountains to the desert. The year after Crohn's nearly killed me, I ran 25 Ks to see if I could, hitting personal bests along the way. 2 years after that, the week of our wedding, I finished top of my age group in the Ultimate Hawaiian Trail Run. But this photo shoot prep was a different kind of discipline. This was pushing my body and mind in ways I hadn't, and to a place I didn't know was possible. It was a big physical win for me, but more than that, it etched into my inner core the undeniable belief that nothing is out of reach at any age if you believe and you put in the work. Carrie and I stayed in a condo in downtown Wilmington on that trip, overlooking the river, exploring the city. And we found Wilmington was an ideal mix of a real town without the overwhelming urban chaos I'd felt in big cities. And while we were there, we drove the area, back up Highway 17, this time turning east down all those roads we'd passed the last trip out. We stumbled into an open house in a neighborhood that looked straight out of a movie. Heavily wooded, every house on at least half an acre, the main road dead-ending at a dock and a boat ramp into the intercoastal. The house itself had that Chip and Joanna Gaines country vibe, surrounded by dense woods and wildflowers. Our minds were racing. We realized that with the appreciation of our place in Colorado, we might even be able to pay cash out there. We loved the house we saw, but we knew the timing wasn't quite right. What we walked away with, though, was answers. And a realtor who would become a friend. We spent the rest of that trip driving in and out of every community we could find. We came back in June, right after our youngest graduated. Our realtor had been sending listings. We had a dozen neighborhoods to explore. Wooded ones, rural ones, planned developments, waterfront communities. And she arranged for us to see a half dozen houses in a single day. We had been spoiled by our house in Colorado that we had painstakingly renovated every square inch over 10 years. We had a pool, an office for each of us, a home gym, a guest room, a big garden, gourmet kitchen, and a yard for the dogs. So we had big ideas about what we wanted. Each house we'd walk through, trying to imagine how we'd make it work. Could that media room somehow be a gym and a recording studio? Would those offices above the bedroom work, or would that feel noisy and awkward? Then we found the unicorn. We turned off Highway 17 down into a gated community where every house was set back from the road, surrounded by trees. 4 homes for sale in that neighborhood. It took only a few minutes to dismiss the first 3. But number 4 was us. It didn't just have everything we wanted. It felt like a home, like our home. The main house had a master on the first floor, 2 bedrooms and a bonus room upstairs, and off that bonus room, another room that would become the studio where I record this show. Out back, a brick patio with a fish pond, and beyond that, in addition to the 2-car garage, a separate 3-car garage with fully finished space above it. We found it. Offices, studio, guest room, gym, all of it. We spent maybe 15 minutes in that house. And we made an offer. $100,000 below ask. 120-day close. Contingent on selling Colorado. By the way, we hadn't even listed our Colorado house yet. They accepted. And I'll tell you, a big part of that was our realtor. She had built real trust with the listing side. That relationship mattered. People matter. How you treat people matters. The right people in the right places matter. Then, right as we were about to go into overdrive on Colorado to get it ready to sell, I texted Nick to tell him we were going under contract in Hampstead. His reply came back immediately. What? Dude, we just went under contract to move to Hampstead from Holly Ridge. The world keeps contracting around the right decisions. We painted the whole interior of the Colorado house. We found a condo. We moved out of the house, had it professionally staged, listed it. 48 hours after listing, sold. More than $100,000 above ask. All cash. 14-day close. We were in a position to pay cash for North Carolina. Kept a condo in Colorado so we can split time. We didn't burn the bridge. We crossed a new one. In October of 2024, we made the move. Splitting time between Colorado and North Carolina feels a bit like a dream. I haven't lived in the same area code as my folks since I was a young kid. Now they're 3 hours away. We rotate every month, us driving out to spend a weekend with them coming out to stay with us, holidays, birthdays, random weekends. We get to see their life, a lot of gardening and golf, and we get to show them ours, a life built around the beach. Carrie's mom came out for Christmas. Our daughter came out with her boyfriend and our grandson. We did the beach, the boat, all of it. We're getting our youngest out here this summer. Most afternoons, Carrie and I walk through the neighborhood, down past the kayak launch and the marshy trails, past the pool and the tennis courts, to the little dock on the intercoastal that looks like something out of a painting or a movie set. We try to catch a beach sunrise every week, even if we have to bundle up a bit in the winter months. We've made friends with the crew at the local fish market in Surf City. We swing by Wednesday or Saturday, sometimes both, when the local catch comes in, grab some fresh tuna for ahi poke, or to treat ourselves to toro sashimi when the fleet brings in the good stuff. We bought a starter boat our first spring here. 25 years old, got the job done, new mechanical issues every time out. You know the deal with boating. So this year we treated ourselves. We upgraded to a boat fully outfitted for offshore fishing. Spring is here. We're getting out on the water a few days a week already, and we've got lazy summer afternoons on the sandbars and early mornings chasing mahi ahead of us. Life by design. That's what it looks like. Not perfect, not without complexity, but chosen, intentional, ours. Now, I want to address something head on because I know what some of you are thinking. That's a lot of risk. You moved across the country while your business was still being built. You split your time between two states. You went big on multiple fronts at a moment when a lot of people would have said, take it slow. Now is not the time. And yeah, people said exactly that. People we respected. People who care about us. Some of them worried out loud. Some of them worried quietly. And I know the concern was real. But we were committed to the life by design vision, and we were willing to bet on each other. We were excited to bet on us. Here's what happened. We generated more revenue and more meaningful work in the year after the move than in the year before it. Yes, it means traveling once, sometimes twice a month between the two states. Yes, it means working across time zones. Yes, our business is headquartered in Colorado, and we're gone from there a lot. We make it work. We made it work better than it worked before, in fact, because here's what I know now. A person who is genuinely happy in their life shows up differently. In rooms, in relationships, in negotiations, in every conversation that matters. The happiness isn't separate from the performance, it fuels it. I've seen Rocky Mountain sunsets and Atlantic Ocean sunrises the same week, sometimes the same day. Our lifestyle isn't just better, our life is firing on all cylinders. And that happiness carries into our relationship every single day. That's not luck. That's what happens when you stop waiting for permission and start building the life you actually want. Now, I want to talk to someone specific. Maybe that's you. You're in your 40s, maybe 50s. You've built a career that would have made your 30-year-old self drop to their knees in gratitude. C-suite, senior leader, the kind of title that commands a room. You've climbed every rung every bell, done everything you said you wanted to do, and everyone around you says you have it all. But your own mortality is starting to feel real in a way it didn't before. Maybe you lost someone, a peer, a friend, someone your age, you didn't see it coming. Maybe your marriage has gotten quieter in a way that worries you. Maybe you're just standing in the middle of the life you built and thinking, I should feel on top of the world right now. And I don't. Something's missing, and you can't name it, and you're a little afraid to try. I know that feeling. I've been there. And I'm here to tell you two things. Number one, you're not broken. What you're feeling is not a failure, it's a signal. And number two, the leap is survivable. In fact, in my experience, it's better on the other side than you're letting yourself imagine. The scoreboard you've been playing by, the one that says career first, grind longer, accumulate more, earn the life you want. That was designed by someone else. Maybe your parents, maybe your industry, maybe a version of you that was 25 and scared and ambitious and hadn't yet figured out what actually matters. You can change the scoreboard. That's not reckless. That's the work. That's living. I come back to this a lot. Memento mori, memento vivere. Remember you will die. Remember to live. Not as a dark thing, as a clarifying thing. Because the awareness that time is finite is the only thing that makes the choice feel urgent enough to actually make it. We're in North Carolina. We go to the beach at sunrise. We have fresh ahi from the fish market. We're about to spend lazy mornings chasing mahi and afternoons on a sandbar. My folks are 3 hours away and we see them every month. That's not a brag. That's a proof of concept. And I'm not special. I didn't have a perfect path. I just made a decision to stop waiting for the life I wanted and start building it. And I'm here every week in this podcast, on Instagram and LinkedIn, in the work I do with people I coach to help you do the same thing. If any part of what I said today landed, I want to hear from you. DM me on Instagram at Berrick Abramson or find me at livinglifeallin.com. Tell me what connected. Tell me where you're stuck. I read everything that comes in. And if you know someone who needed to hear this today, the person who has everything and is quietly asking why it doesn't feel like enough, send them this episode. That's how this reaches the people it's supposed to reach. This is Living All In. I'm Berrick Abramson. Memento mori, memento vivere. Go live it.